Today, I have another poem for you guys by Kahlil Gibran, and this is Ambition. And I read this briefly before. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna read it first, and then we're gonna go into the lines and what's it meaning. But this is a real treat for you guys. Three men met at a tavern. One was a weaver, another was a carpenter, and the third a plowman. Said the weaver, "I sold a fine linen shroud today for 2 pieces of gold. Let us have all the wine we want." "And I," said the carpenter, "I sold my best coffin. We will have a great roast with the wine." "I only dug a grave," said the plowman, "but my patron paid me double. Let us have honey cakes too." And all that evening the tavern was busy, for they called often for wine and meat and cakes, and they were merry. And the host rubbed his hands and smiled at his wife, for his guests were spending freely. When they left, the moon was high, and they walked along the road singing and shouting together. The host and his wife stood in the tavern door and looked after them. "Ah," said the wife, "these gentlemen, so free-handed and so gay. If only they could bring us such luck every day. Then our son need not be a tavern keeper and work so hard. We could educate him and he could become a priest." And this is almost a bittersweet poem because it should be fairly clear what it's about. Is that these three men basically helped somebody bury their loved one that day. And that's where they got their money from. They provided services for the funeral, and it's almost this callous way of looking at the world. It's almost this callous way of looking at death, but it's showing you that not all bad things happen from death. That there's this cycle of things, and that there's this unforeseen hand that guides us in a certain direction that puts things in place and makes things happen for a reason. It reminds me a lot of the Book of Job, where the entire point of the Book of Job is that bad things happen to good people, and generally when they do, things are working on a grand scale and we can't understand them. And I think this is perfectly encapsulated by Gibran. And especially as we get to the bottom part of this, it says, "Ah," said the wife, "these gentlemen, so free-handed and so gay. If only they could bring us such luck every day." And she's saying it's lucky that these men had to help somebody bury their loved one. She's saying that it's lucky that this person died so that we can make money and we can send our son to live a better life and all sorts of these things. And it's really interesting because when we think about death, we always think about the immediate suffering of the people that are involved, but we don't necessarily think about what comes out of it. And this is something that I feel like as I get older, I deal with death more and more because people that I love just are simply getting older. And, I think there's almost a silver lining to everything. I think that when somebody passes on, when somebody is gone, then all that remains is the good times, is the good memories, and it really puts in perspective how much they meant to you and how much they shaped you. And it's something that you can only see when it's too late. And in some ways, there's something so profound about death and so beautiful about death. But in the same instance, they're no longer here, so it rips your heart away and builds it back up in the same moment. And I think that's what Gibran does so well. It's really exemplified in this poem right here. I often say when I talk about Gibran is that he is able to capture the absolute heights of glory and the absolute pits of despair all in the same sort of poem, and you can see kind of this dualistic nature to it where the reason why these men are so happy is because somebody's so sad. And the reason why all of these good things happen to these people is because somebody experienced something so painful. And almost that there's this counterbalance in the world, and almost that there's this necessity for someone to feel bad for you to feel good. And it really reminiscent of that story of King Solomon where I've been mentioning this story so often recently, but it's probably because it's so imminent and it's so profound and it's so important. Um, but the story goes that King Solomon wanted a item that would make a sad man happy and a happy man sad. And the the item that was brought to him was a ring that said, "This too shall pass," meaning that the good times will fade and the bad times will fade as well. And if you're in the bad times, then you can recognize this and you can look forward to the better times. And if you're in the better times and you're experiencing joy, you look at this ring and you put things in perspective, and it's just this necessity that change is going to occur, and we have to be okay with it. That is really reiterated throughout this poem. And again, I love Khalil Gibran so much. I really wish I could just devote all of my time to reading Gibran. Just truly just speaks to me much better than any other author can. And there's just something so beautiful about his words. And I'm genuinely going to learn other languages just to read Gibran in his original language. But yeah, with that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. I may come out with another one of these today, but I want to start doing these every so often. I don't know if I'm going to put them purely on my Substack, purely on this channel, maybe a little bit of both. But I'm having fun doing these. If you're interested in poetry, I feel like it's a fun thing to do. If you like my analysis, then stick around for more. If you don't, that's not the important aspect of this. The important aspect of this is to go read Khalil Gibran and be inspired by his words and be influenced by the beautiful the beautiful perspective in which he held over this world. So that said, I love you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.